This is an open letter to the Sane Society. I have this neighbor that very overtly takes pictures of my activity and what I have, my possessions, very overtly. Now, we all have nosy neighbors. I consider myself, from time to time, to be a nosy neighbor, but you tend to keep it on the low. Don't, you know, don't exaggerate it. Don't make it so overt. For the sake of civility, for the sake of, civility. Don't, you want to snoop, you want to find out what's going on there, you don't make it so overt. But I found out to my, first to my surprise, that how is it my neighbor is so overtly taking pictures of everything that I do and everything that I have I purchase something, I sell, purchase. If it's here, he knows about it and he has a picture of it. At first, I didn't, I was surprised. How is it that this is happening so overtly? But then, you know, it dawned on me that the reason he's so overt about it is because it's been requested of him, and he's probably getting paid for such a behavior and protection, legal protection. This kind of behavior probably has some kind of a, so he believes that there's some kind of solid legal protection behind his overtly inquisitive nature and actions. Uh, so for a long while, I was not. It wasn't clear for me why would he do this, and then it dawned on me that it's the government itself has requested, the Uncle Sam's managers have requested of him to provide them with, you know, in, interesting information that comes about what has happened. Keep tabs on your neighbor. What has happened, what is happening. You want pictures, and we will pay you for it. Probably handsomely, because as I will explain. So the idea is that uh, I never really confronted the man about the matter because the guy obviously knows what he's doing. Is standing there, somebody who usually doesn't do much around, doesn't do a lot of activity, but he's present in action whenever there is something new about me to provide documentation. First of all, I am honored. Somebody's documenting my existence. I'm honored. So, and whichever government organization, probably FBI, is, you know, honoring me with requesting my neighbor to document my life, I'm honored. No, no, I mean, people, the whole point of existence is a legacy, and if, I have something that can be is worthy enough to be documented as, part of history, I'm all for it. Salute. Please continue. Please continue with documenting my life, and I'm honored. Even if it's a folder in some corner of a server in FBI, maybe 1,000 years from now, somebody happens to pass by that corner and see my name. So I'm honored. Uh, but here's the thing. But and I don't blame my neighbor. Come on, they paid somebody to kill Malcolm X. No, I don't know who they are, but somebody paid somebody. I mean, nobody's crazy enough to try to, kill Malcolm X because they didn't like him. Somebody was paid. Obviously it was an order. So, as comparing to people who got shot because the right people got paid, I'm honored that I'm just being photographed. So here's the point. But so I don't blame my neighbor, and probably beside the money, they probably give him a pat in the back and yeah, attaboy, patriot, you're doing the right thing, all of that too. So, but here's the thing. So I don't blame. I'm honored for the people who have ordered this and are paying for this, and I'm honored that my neighbor is so diligent about keeping documentation. But and posterity. But dig a little deeper and say, and nobody in the middle of nowhere is sitting down and money exchanges hands and intentions are put in play in order to keep tabs on this nobody in the middle of nowhere. And you're thinking there are many nobodies in the middle of nowheres that are obviously being, I'm not special. There are lots of nobodies in the middle of nowhere who have been obviously in the same situation, and their neighbors are being paid to document their activity on behalf of the state, the managers. So then you think that, so it could get as bad as the point where half of the country is being paid to keep watch on the other half of the country. Half of the population is getting paid to keep watch on the other half of the population. And well, that's the very definition of a police state. Okay? But you have to dig deeper. How can the expenditure, if there is money, put your money where your mouth is. The thing is, I have a feeling every security agency of every nation on this planet wants to have that kind of money, to have that kind of access, control over their citizens, at least control over information, knowing where their citizens are at all times. That's the objective. Every state wants that. We attribute it to God and holy, and okay, fine. But the state, as the responsible party for the well-being of a group of people within the defined borders, that state is responsible for the lives of all these people. So that state feels better if it can know almost everything of everyone, so it can ideally prevent anything before it happens. Everything bad prevents anything bad happening before it happens, and that only comes about if you know everything about everyone all the time. So my point is this: every security agency on this planet, in every city, in every country, wants this power. There's nothing special, remotely special about this want by the Uncle Sam's managers. But what Uncle Sam's managers have that others don't is access to unlimited unlimited funds, apparently. Again, to make it short, to cheap an eye, to pay half of the population, to keep tabs on the other half of the population, it takes a lot of money. If you have so many nobodies in the middle of nowhere that you have to keep tabs on, and you have to pay money to half of the population to keep tabs on the nobodies, if you have the money, you can do it. If you don't, if you're Pakistan, you can't do it because you don't have the money. If you keep print money and keep handing it out to the police officers, then you will have triple what inflation you have right now. So this security state, this police state, is only possible if you have unlimited cash, which doesn't bring about inflation. And the only way this unlimited cash, you have access to unlimited cash, and that will not cause inflation, if you dig a little farther, you see that the reserve currency is reserve currency of, if you have the reserve currency of the planet, that means you only have the authority to print it, and others only have the authority to exchange it. They can't print it. So you're the fountainhead. Ayn Rand, the fountainhead. You're the fountainhead. If you're the fountainhead of money, you can print it, and especially with the loan business, all they say 90% of the money that comes up into existence is not produced by the central bank. It's produced by loans that these banks create out of thin air. They only keep 10% of reserve, and they can issue 90%. 90%. I believe a large number. It's like for every dollar that they keep in reserve, they can issue $9 in loans, something like that. So all these small banks that are creating all this wealth, and only it's Uncle Sam's banks have the right to create this kind of wealth. And then they found out, it's so good having everybody in debt in dollars. It's such a good idea. They have allowed the Europeans to issue debt in dollar as well. European banks to issue debt in dollar as well, because hey, they can issue debt, but still we have control over all these knob digits in the computer. Let them issue some debt. So because the more people around the world go in debt in dollars, the better it is for whoever prints dollars. Because like the guy says, they print the principal, they don't print the interest. So you're always to for everybody to be able to pay not only their principal but the interest on the money they borrowed, they keep needing more money that is actually in existence. So the whoever is printing money has to continuously print money to allow all these businesses to bring new money, to allow all these businesses be able to get new loans to pay off the interest on the old loans. Anyway, it's a scheme. But my point is this, that the security agencies domestically in Uncle Sam's land are so well funded because of all this available liquidity. They're so well funded that they actually can hire half of the population to keep an eye on the other half of the population, because they're swimming in funds. Whether budget, what budget? Uncle Sam can say we have the budget of the planet. The income that they're making in Zimbabwe, we also get the piece of that, because they are transacting in dollars and they're paying interest in dollars, interest that doesn't exist, that they have to also borrow from us to pay us with the interest for the interest of the dollar that they borrowed from us. Anyway, my point is this. So the security agencies are swimming in dollars, therefore you have a police state. Then you dig a little farther and you think that Well, the world has become militarized by Uncle Sam's managers because the military is also swimming in funds. And thank God that arms manufacturers are not very efficient. If they were efficient, you know how much arms could all this money going into arms business, how much arms could have produced? I mean, Ukraine has become the dumping ground of any. They're writing off all the unwanted excess military equipment that was produced, that with the money that should have built a hospital or a school or a residential, that money had gone and produced that, military hardware that is now just sent to Ukraine and written off as expense of order, expense of security in defense of the homeland. It's people in Ukraine getting killed has something to do with defense of the realm. What realm? You know, unless you folks have acquired new realm and didn't tell anybody about. Ukraine became an acquired state. So here's the thing: this unlimited fund business is not only helping the state to become overly secured by overly overly concerned security agencies, official, federal, state. Everybody's concerned because everybody's well funded. You have, it used to be two police officers per car. But there's so much funding that, they have less people but more cars, so much funding that, one police officer per car. Yeah, you know, and and you see that. Why not four police officers per car? I mean, how much funding is there that, why not walking officers, or why not, more postal workers and more firemen? Why not, you know? But that's the thing. It, the security state knows that if they know everything but from everyone all the time, they can almost prevent everything because they're keeping tabs on everyone. And that's their goal. But if you leave unlimited funds to them, provide unlimited funds to them, it's because which unlimited comes from the fact that it's the, you know dollar is the world reserve currency. Because it's the world reserve currency, and only Uncle Sam's managers have the right to print it. Anybody else prints it, that's forged. Even if it's a state prints it, the state is forging. That's why North Korea has been sitting in the corner for a long while. for, it's been known that they have printed dollars more than a few times in the past. So, forged. So the point is, and private individuals who do it also, they're in trouble. So only Uncle Sam's managers can print, but everybody around the planet owns things in dollars to each other. And when say own things in dollars, is, I mean, a bridge in Panama is built by a German corporation. What money has, and the Panamanians didn't have the money to pay for it cash up front. If they had, it had to be dollars. If they didn't have, then the German corporation ends up issuing a loan in dollars to the country that's got the bridge. They don't issue it in mark. They don't have mark anymore. I understand with Uncle Sam's managers allowing Europeans to issue loans in dollars. That's exactly what the Germans do. German corporation does. It issues a loan in dollars to the Panamanian, builds the bridge, and collects loan plus principal plus interest for the remaining time of the loan from the country. So the the dollar loan has been issued, and it's been issued for a principal plus an interest. Now that country has to find somehow dollars from somewhere to pay the dollars from somewhere that doesn't exist to pay interest on that loan for that bridge. So these Uncle Sam gets to print in as much dollars as he wants. Uncle Sam's managers get to print as much dollar as they want. It will never get inflated as long as people have loans in dollars. It will never get inflated, not for long, unless Uncle Sam decides to print. They have to print hand over fist and charge zero interest just for people to be able to keep their head above water, because there are always going to be the interest of the money on the loans are going to be short. And this is what it brings about all these wars: unlimited funds to the military, unlimited funds to the police force. And when I say police force, I don't mean local police or the police that is closest to where the funds are printed. I mean, we are talking about, the guys at the federal level. They get most of the funds, not the local police. Local police has to make do with local income from the taxpayers and donations and all of that. So these folks are not, the issue. The issue is the police forces, which are security forces, which are closer to where the money is being printed, physically, literally physically closer to where the money is being issued. They get they get as much funding as they want. Result result. I mean, I had a I visited I had the opportunity to visit Washington D.C. once, and I got a bicycle and went around on a bicycle, and I was there for a few days, and what I noticed is, frankly, the conformity. It was like every afternoon, or was it a weekend afternoon? I don't know, but I think it was every afternoon, because I saw this on on 2 nights in a row, that every afternoon on the big lawn you know that's the center stage, the mall they call it, on the big lawn, it's got a big piece of grass, very wide, very huge, and you see these, obviously these folks are, you know lobbyists and lobbyist mistresses and lawyers mistresses, and lawmakers mistresses and boyfriends and girlfriends, and probably the lawmakers themselves sometimes, in some kind of disguise or whatever. They are doing activities together, all kinds of sporting, social, blah 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 activity in the mall in the afternoon. Uh, Apparently there's in every afternoon, and it's very conformist. I mean, that kind of close networking brings conformity. That kind of close networking, that you have to see a certain group of people every day, and who are also with you during the day for office, or maybe some of them at least are with you during your day job, and then some of them still stick around with you at So it's got its own culture and it's got its own networks, and which brings about conformity throughout. And you know, unless your representative or a senator from or the people who work for these people who are live very close by, that you don't need to see the people that you see during work, you don't need to see them after work, or you don't need to, if you don't need to do that, you can stay somewhat independent. So you see a lot of these independent senators and representatives who live, in states near Washington D.C. And so they, many of them, usually remain the lone objecting voice because they actually don't get involved in those networks that I do, that kind of conformity that I saw, that kind of environment that I saw, that they work during the day and then they come and do team building as a you know as a exercise, as a in their off time. They work during the day in a team, and then in their off time they come and work on their team building sports. Yeah, yeah, team building, good, great, but the thing is, team building also brings conformity, and conformity brings blindness. This conformity thing is the blind leading the blind. If you conform too much and you're really not seeing what's going up in the front, you might fall off a cliff. The idea of, they used to, the Redskins used to hunt buffaloes in this way in large numbers, is they take out a group of buffaloes out of the big herd. They thin out a group of them, and then they run this group of buffaloes. They scream at them and they convince them to start running, stampeding towards a direction that they a prearranged direction, which has been off a cliff. So they would separate a group of buffaloes, and by screaming at them and guiding them, they would force this group of buffaloes to fall off the cliff. And the way it would happen is everybody's going with speed, and they're moving in a herd. So by the time the first ones see it, that it's a cliff and they have to stop, the first ones can't stop because there's a push of the herd from behind. So even if the first row sees the cliff, can't stop because the people behind are pushing. That's inertia of buffalo stampede. It's gonna push its way through. And the ones behind will not stop because they can't see. It's a herd. So the whole fucking a big portion of the herd, or as many as the Indians have decided to run off the cliff like this, they all get killed because the front ones who can see it can't stop because of the push from behind. And this can end in nuclear war. The front ones who can see it, like Senator Representative Massey, the ones who can see those buffaloes in the front, who can see it's a cliff and wants to back off the cliff, can't back off because there is a whole elephant behind. There is an elephant of the Republican, and riding on top of the elephant is a donkey of the Democratic Party, both trying to running towards the cliff, and you know, and apparently they can't see it. Elephants apparently can't see. They can hear well, elephants, but they can't see well, apparently. And the donkeys are just enjoying the ride on top of the fucking elephant. Anyway, my point is this, and the media and the whole military-industrial complex is added. It's the elephant of this and the hippopotamus of security forces and the 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 buffalo of the military forces. These are all running such heavy weights, such inertia, and they're pushing these few politicians who can see there's a fucking cliff. They're pushing these politicians towards the cliff. Apparently, none of these folks can tell there's a cliff in the front. And this what happens with the teams. Imagine, you can just imagine it. Rugby, the way these rugby players bunch up and form a group to push the ball forward, and the opposing teams have bunch up and put their hands on each other's shoulder and try to push the opposite direction. You can just imagine it. Take away the other team, and this group that are pushing and not seeing because they're all locked their head together, they can't see the cliff. This is teamwork to extreme. When you become such an efficient team, that's what went wrong with the fucking Germans. You know, Germans great team players, team players. They're very intelligent, great team players, and that's what goes wrong with these wars. That the team, a few who see the cliff, the team runs over, and off we go. They all fall off the cliff. The whole system becomes insane because of teams. Literally, they have chosen their colors, and the blue team and the red team, and all that is important is winning. But they really don't recognize that more or less they both want to do the same thing, which is go and party after winning. That's the political contest has become less the in Uncle Sam's land, and in the fucking place where the British live, and in France, they're all going headfirst towards police state and world war. In my view, against Eurasians, against Asians and Africans. They have been at war against Africans since colonialism. How you take over a piece of other people's land by war. You force them to accept you as the ruler. Just like the Iraqis have been forced to accept Uncle Sam's managers as their ruler. They don't receive the money from their oil in their own account in Baghdad. They receive the money from oil in an account in New York. And then they have to, send invoice to get funding. That's colonialism. That's a governor shit. That's sort of like you govern there, but we collect the money and then we give you as much as we think is necessary for you to exist. That's governorship shit. That's, the whole, wow, I don't care. You choose your own governor or I put your governor. I put your governor, shove your governor up your ass, or you pick it yourself in a democratic fashion. In either case, I collect the money and then dole it out whenever I see fit. In case of Egypt, you cannot even have industry, which I think may not be beneficial to the state of Israel. So you can't have any industry in Egypt. But I will print some money and give it and donate it to you just to exist. This is, this is some racist shit. This is the Arabs, the brown people, being ruled by Anglo-Saxons. by way of, city of London, city of New York, and somewhere underground determining, the interest rates. This is some. Are you kidding me? Sort of like, Uncle Sam managers not only have their own producers of their own oil, but also the producers of oil in Iraq and to a great extent in Kuwait. The American Arabian oil company Aramco has the name of Uncle Sam's managers in the name. Aramco had it. I don't know if they changed the name recently. They haven't nationalized it. They have an oil company. The money goes to New York, and then again find some of it back to the Arabs, Saudi Arabia, Saud family, or the Saud family take the money, but very peacefully hand it over to New York to buy treasuries and invest in the stock market or whatever. So again, peacefully. Saud family are the governors, are peaceful governors of Saudi Arabia. They hand over their money peacefully. So we don't have to collect it, like Iraq. The Saud family are as governors of Saudi Arabia are peacefully, after collecting their money, they peacefully hand it over to New York and London and Paris to a lesser extent. Peacefully. Or else they have been, some assassination had taken place and some other family would have taken over. But so far they have peacefully handed over all their money, so they're there. Seriously? And anybody who's not peacefully willing to hand over their money, come and buy treasuries from us, come and invest in our stock market, come and invest in this, I'll come and invest in that. Whoever doesn't do that is a bad guy and a communist and a dictator, and never mind, we have our own dictators, but our dictators are good dictators, and those are bad dictators, and the rest of the bullshit that you guys already know about. My point is this: all of this comes from the reserve currency status. Excessive domestic policing, excessive international militarization, and attacking and taking over. It's just excessive. All this excess of interior control and exterior control, trying to control the exteriors, even going as far as going to such a shithole as Afghanistan, trying to secure Afghanistan. That's because of excess funding. It's like, hey, we got the money, why not? We got the money, we have the investment, we have created some amazing, missiles and hardware and software, and we can go conquer it, no problem. Why not? We have the money, we have the tools. That's the whole idea behind Russia. Pushing up Russia's ass in Ukraine and expanding NATO in the Baltics. This is it. Because we have excess funding. We have a lot of money, hardware, software, everything. We can do it, why not? This is because of liquidity. If you dry up this liquidity, the military machine stops. Sort of like, oh, we want to go take over that piece of land, bring order, and the guy says, sorry, I don't have the equipment or the man, we can't do that. We can't go help them. If they want, we can send them some food. If they don't want that either, we don't have to send them food either. This is what happens when you dry up the funding. But as long as the funding is there under the banner of defense. Defense of what? Defense, You got two oceans. This is, even to Canada. Defense of what? Why so much money spent in defense in Canada? You're surrounded by two oceans and one country, two country. What, that's all you have to defend. You don't have to defend uh, Hassan from Hussein. You don't have to defend Hassan from Hussein or Hussein from Hassan. You don't have. That's not your responsibility. You can't do defense on 3,000 miles away. Defense of what? Defense of Earth? Are we being invaded by aliens? I I would know, but no. It's like, Then if you're not defending Earth from alien, then what are you doing in Baghdad? You know, if you're you know if because the only way somebody named Joe has to be present in Baghdad is as a tourist. You see what I'm saying? Somebody named Joe shouldn't be defending anybody against anyone in Baghdad, because Joe doesn't understand the people of Baghdad. Joe doesn't appreciate the people of Baghdad. Joe thinks people of Baghdad are stupid, and they probably are. But it's not Joe's business to run things in Baghdad just because people of Baghdad are stupid. It's just not. But they do it. They want to do it because there is liquidity. There's money to do it. Why is there money to do it? Is because, you know education gets 1/10 of what supposed defense get. This is not defense. Defense ends at the borders. Even World War II should not have been fought. I don't think should have been fought by Uncle Sam's managers. If the Germans had the aptitude to run Europe, Germans should have been left to run Europe. End of story. It would have looked pretty much like it looks today, but 100 years ago. So they would have been 100 years advanced. Small states can't function. So European Union or Germany forming the European Parliament much sooner and being it in Berlin. Because eventually, after the war stops in Europe, this is the other scenario could have happened. After the war stops, okay, Germany took over the whole fucking Europe. Okay, now what? Okay, now they don't want to kill people of Europe. They want to take it over. That means control it, bring order to it. Okay, what happens? We put a parliament and we bring, just sanity means that they would have done that eventually after taking over Europe. Put up something like European Parliament, but instead of in Brussels, in Berlin. Okay. European members from member states and member counties and smaller pieces send representatives to this European Council, European Parliament in Berlin. And so on and on and on as it has happened. It's just that they wanted order. They wanted to have access to some warm water ports. Germans don't have access to warm water ports. The Baltics is iffy. But no, it was a British idea that Europe should be divided, as we saw, and then the British keep pulling Uncle Sam's managers into this bullshit. First attacking Europe, breaking up Europe, and now then attacking Asia and taking Uncle Sam's managers into China and Vietnam and all the nonsense over there, Filipino, and then the British putting Uncle Sam's managers hand up in West Asia with Israel. That was another British creation. The British don't want security and stability anywhere except their own shitty little island. and they do everything they can to destabilize everyone everywhere. And Uncle Sam's managers, with this team building efforts that they do in Washington D.C., and this this what happened? What did you eat? Anyway, the point is this, that with this conformity that is created in Washington D.C., the system it looks more and more like a herd going somewhere. A herd going somewhere, if it can't see where it's going, and those people in the front that can't see are stampeded over, and eventually this herd may fall off the cliff. And I think both in case of Afghanistan, Iraq, Vietnam, in case of Ukraine, now Ukraine, in case of Israel, it's just reminiscence of the herd that is every time keeps falling off these cliffs, because few that can see the shit show that's going to end in are blackballed or considered odd and considered outcasts and considered this and sort of like, but you, the rest of you folks are a herd, and usually one herd. Some of them are blue and some of them are red, but they're going. They keep approaching and falling off these obvious cliffs over and over and over again. Again, you see, any of the representatives or senators that stay out of, because their home state is so close, their home is so close that they can go home and not become part of the fabric of that team fabric. They stay somewhat independent and they can see the cliffs and they call the cliffs, like Senator Rand Paul and Representative Massey. And these people go home at night, can have the opportunity to go, not in being, not be at, have not have to stay at the seat of government. They have independent voice, but there are so few of them. But and the rest are so well. The fabric of that teamwork has been built so well that they lose sight. They keep falling into wars that, or forget about wars, the police state. And they keep following people, paying for information on people in the middle of nowhere, and increasing social animosity at the cost of increasing social animosity. Because they have so much fun to get rid of. There's so much money that almost anything can be justified. Any extreme can be justified. A clear example of was is Senator McCain, and who's no longer with us, and his buddies, that these guys are all, let's go in Ukraine and see what we can do to set them free. It's a, we have the money, why not? We have the funds, we have the arms, we have the, we can bring pallets of cash and buy everyone who doesn't agree with us, and if they don't, we can't buy them. Well, sorry, we're going to have to get rid of you somewhere, some other way. And that's the whole idea of overthrowing. They're overthrow. Imagine in 1953, it was supposedly the first government. They overthrew their first government. This whole military-industrial complex. They overthrew their first government, military-industrial business complex. They threw their first government in 1953, and the last one they overthrew was in Bangladesh 3 months ago. It's non-stop, militarily, diplomatically. If we can't buy you, we, we send you away. Hopefully to St. Helens Island, but that's what happened to the first Shah of Iran. The British couldn't buy him, so they took over and sent him to St. Helens Island in the middle of Atlantic Ocean, South Atlantic, somewhere that nobody usually ever goes, passes. If they can't buy you, if the Anglo-Saxons can't buy you, they send you away. If they can't send you away, they kill you. And there's somehow team building happening in the mall, in the Washington Mall, with people who who want to conform to teams, but then the head of these teams actually believe in this nonsense that yes, they have to bend to our will because we have the money. If they don't, then we get rid of them, and that's why Hillary Clinton didn't see any issue with laughing at when the news came that Gaddafi was killed. And Hillary Clinton didn't have any issue laughing and joking about it because she was one of the head of one of the teams. She considered herself or her husband as a previous team leader and one of the head of the teams. So, and that's why they don't understand that why Hillary wasn't chosen, because these teams, it have even lost view of what election is and how people feel, because teams tend to agree with each other. That team building effort of always backing up your teammate even if it is bullshit, if it's wrong. In the whole case of whatever Israel does, Uncle Sam's manager say, yeah, that was perfect. That was perfect. They couldn't have done it anywhere else. That anyway else. That's perfect. Although there was so many, casualties, you know, but because they feel it's a team. We are a team. Everybody's a team. It's a Anglo-Saxon team. Or anybody is also playing in this team is like playing for the Anglo-Saxons. It's sort of like the football. American football is sort of like you could be brown and play in this team. You can be black or white and play in these teams. But whenever, whatever color you're playing in, it doesn't matter because they're all more or less owned by I don't know 14, 15, 20 really rich Anglo-Saxons mostly. So it's a majority. It's a good majority are European pinkskins, specifically Anglo-Saxons, who are the owners of these teams. So you can be a Rishi Sunak, but you can also work for the Queen. It's kind of that kind of a sense. You can be Rishi Sunak and work for the Queen, and you can be the son of Fidel Castro and work for the team. As long as you're working for the Anglo-Saxons, everything's going to be fine. So The thing is, it all goes back to the reserve currency status, over policing, over militarizing, over this, over that, these team buildings and these, falling off the cliff matter of these teams. All of that goes back to how well this thing is funded. How well this thing is funded. If it's not funded, you won't have any teams, you won't have any, you will have only enough military to protect your own borders. If you don't have the liquidity. But then again, you go back and you find out that, military budget in North America is 10 times the education budget. Military budget is 10 times the housing budget, and military budget is 10 times the health budget. And you're thinking to yourself, I'm sorry, you're only bordered by two countries, Canada and Mexico. Who are you defending against? If you're not defending your own borders, what are you defending? And did anybody ask you to defend whatever it is you think you're defending? Are everybody on board? Did the Russians, Chinese, Africans, have they all agreed that you should be defending, Sang from King, Sung from Kung? You know, you pick sides, as I said in one of my earlier videos, over incremental. They're both shitty sides. One side is incrementally better or worse than the other. Who cares? But you pick one side because they're of presumed preference, because these guys are incrementally better, and you fund them to fight the other side. Why? Because the funding is there. You want stop all wars? Stop funding them. Israelis have killed 40,000 people, and sort of like, no, 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 no problem. We continue sending arms and money. No problem. That's a team, because it's a team effort. So you agree you're on the same team as the people who are committed to murdering the natives? You're on the same team. You agree that you're on the same team as the people who decided to murder the natives in their own homes. Again, I'm sorry. I don't think human beings should. I understand the benefits of large cities and large numbers of people. I understand the benefits of all that, but I don't think the human brain is ready to accommodate that. I think human brain is many people think this, not I. Many people think this. Human brain is accepting of about 100 people in its daily life, basically the size of a small tribe. 100 people. That's what human beings understand. Anything more than that, this herd mentality becomes a herd of buffaloes, because within 100 people you know everybody, and everybody can stand in one line and they all can see the fucking cliff. When there's 100 people, everybody can see the cliff. While they're running, everybody can see, they stand in line and they see the fucking cliff. Any more numbers over that, forming teams with thousands and thousands of other people, That's, I think, it's beyond the capacity of humans. You, beyond the capacity, because and then you give the reserve currency of the world to you, to these people who are moving as a herd, and they lose it, they squander it, they that liquidity gets destroyed through war, because the herd has decided to move in this way, and very few see it, and if they try to stop it, they get stampeded. No, sorry, I live alone. I don't like herd mentality. I don't like team building. I'm not a team builder, and I'm proud of it. Because humans are not ready. This idea that you say charisma is important in a leader. Why? So everybody would follow him. So even if they see the cliff, they would still follow the charismatic leader and fall off the fucking cliff. That's the whole point of charisma, right? That you would follow the guy even if he talks nonsense. That's more or less what I understand of the meaning of charisma. Even if he's an asshole, you will follow him because he's got charisma. If he talks nonsense or he can't talk or think worth shit, you still follow because he's got charisma. Well, that's how the herd ends up at the bottom of the fucking cliff. If you have a leader who's supposed to see the cliff and can't see well, old age, and the team is very good team, you know very good team building has been done, and they follow the charismatic leader who can't see off the fucking cliff. No, sorry, large societies is not good for humans. You think too much like a herd. Now the whole planet has become one big herd. It's like the internet has brought the whole planet together. So now at this point the planet has become two herds. There were many herds. Now it's going slowly towards being one herd, two herds. The east herd and the western herd. And unfortunately, with nuclear bombs, they're both going to fall off the fucking cliff. And what is that? Even if they don't fall off the cliff, it's going to be one herd of humans from Earth. Even if you don't fall off the cliff and somehow instead of two herds, you form one herd. Imagine being part of one herd on Earth. Then we're going to really fall off the cliff. It's like planet-wide suicide. No, I don't think I think humans should go back to 100 people per tribe, and no Scud missiles and no ballistic missiles, and Stone Age. That's what your brain can handle. That's what human brain can handle. The social construct of tribes, caves, small social constructs of villages. No more than that. Humans are not intelligent enough to. You can see. You can see. I mean, you can see. The British just are dying to thin out their herd. The British, every 50 years at least, they try to find a way to thin out their own herd, their own population on their land. That's what, because it's an island and too many people living on an island. If many of them don't want to move and become expats, then we have to go to war and to thin out the island. That's the fucking British. the previous Queen consort is on record stating that, stating his views, the Queen consort, his views, Philip, I think his fucking name was, his views was that there are too many people on the planet. There are too many people. What does that mean? It means we have to go to war to thin the herd. Especially our own people in England, we have to thin out our own people because there are too many people living on our island. Any questions? And you give unlimited liquidity to these folks, and you have acres of jails and acres. These cities are fighting. It's like I read about the second city that has just started fighting off a police academy or a police city that they're trying to build somewhere in the East Coast. And again, another community. Georgia already, community went against it and they stopped it, or they didn't, I don't know. But another city has, started. They're building another police city somewhere else, and that people of that neighborhood are up in arms. The problem is not, you know, that they want to build it. The problem is they have the money to build it, to build a police city, to build a military academy, to build a military manufacturing, to build any of this. You need money. If they have the funds, if they can't build in this neighborhood, they go and build in another neighborhood. Again, if they have the funds, they will do it. Absolute police state and absolute militarized planet, if they have the money. My neighbor is not the problem. The problem is somebody has so much money that is willing to pay my neighbor something to keep track of me and nobody living in the middle of nowhere. You gotta have a lot of excess funds to pay for that shit. Although I'm honored. More documentation of my life, I feel I owe you some money. Because you're documenting my life. I mean, some server is holding all this information for me. Thank you very much for helping my legacy, my posterity. Thank you. But this is not the way to do it. It should be left up to individual if they want to be remembered or not. Or not. But because of excess funds, start doing this nonsense of trying to micromanage your societies and micromanage the planet. Your domestically, the more money the police force has, the more they try to micromanage the interactions in the society. For example, the high divorce rate is because, they've given women so much rights that, there is no one head of household, there are two heads of household, and we all know that when you have two heads of our household, you're going to always have disagreement. And then the state has got so much funding that every time there's a disagreement between a husband and wife, one of the neighbors calls, and as soon as you can blink, they will send the police there because, they have the funding and the police is available, and, they send the police there to separate the husband from the wife, and, then which eventually will lead to divorce, and just even separation of the husband and wife probably is going to prevent any make-up sex from taking place, and their division increases and they have less children, and their marriage eventually breaks up because the state keeps, has too much money to be inquisitive about very personal issues within people's households. That's the funding. You dry up the funding, the police will only, investigate if, somebody dies, and, bring justice. That's fine. But, you know, if not, if you have too much funding, if you have the manpower to, investigate every bleeding nose, or want to investigate every bleeding nose. Again, it's the idea of, let's bring order to Afghanistan. Let's go. What was the line? Save the Afghan women from Afghan men, and how horrible the Afghan men treat Afghan women. So we have to go save Afghan women from Afghan men. It doesn't make sense. It only makes sense if you have the money. If you have the money, you can poke your nose everywhere. If you don't, that's when you stay at home and worry about Billy Bob and Mama June, not how Afghans are treating each other. It's the reserve currency. It's the funding. This, one way or the other, the funding has to decrease by a lot in military, for the federal security services, for the military. The funding has to be cut by a lot. Only that, which brings about some kind of sanity to the system. Less money to spend on, snooping and spying and, you know, attacking.